Hello, beautiful humans. Welcome back to my little corner of the internet. My name is Anastasia, and here we're just building a community to talk about bookish things. So today I thought it would be really nice if we did like a BookTube newbie tag. So if you don't know what that is, it's basically speed dating. I'm gonna answer a series of questions that other booktubers also have answered when they started out their channel, so that way you can get to know me. We're basically speed dating. We are on a first date, and I'm gonna answer like 10-ish questions, and then we're gonna see if we're compatible. We're gonna see if you and I gel. Okay, and that's basically what this is. So the first question is just quick little tidbits about myself, my age, location, and my job. So I am 41 years old, 41 years young, okay? I am 41 years young. And if you haven't caught by the accent that I've been told that I have, I don't hear it, but apparently I do have it. And it's part of the reason why I kind of like mince words and like slur certain things. I am from South Florida. As far as my job, I do have a day job. I have a very, very, very busy day job. And I would say that that job consists of two parts, okay? Two parts. The first part is I am a nurse practitioner. I have a master's as a family nurse practitioner. I also have a doctorate with that as well. I have a doctorate of nursing practice, and I take care of patients that have certain types of blood cancers. Okay, so that's my first part of my job. The second part of my job is that I am in leadership, and I lead a team of like-minded nurse practitioners and physician assistants. So I am an APP leader as well. And they also take care of patients with similar types of things. So essentially, I'm in charge of a lot of humans, and it is a very busy job. It is a rewarding job. It is a very busy job. And so that is what I do as my day job. With that being said, I do want to make sure that I point out that I will not be speaking about anything about my day job on this channel. This channel is a safe space for me to be creative and to do personal things that I enjoy, whatever this turns into being, right? Like right now, we're just talking about books, we're talking about reading. I am gonna probably be talking about my writing journey. This is a personal passion project. It has nothing to do with the institution in which I am employed for my day job. So I wanna point that out. This is complete separation of church and state. Complete separation. That is my day job. I clock out of there, I clock in here. This is a completely different world. Now, I do mention what I do for a living because it will influence what I think and how I feel about certain books, right? Like I am one of those people that will read Frida McFadden knowing that she's a physician. I am expecting her to write her medical terminology and her medical jargon and her medical issues correctly. I am going to go in with that judgment. Yes, I am, because that's the world that I live in, right? So I just wanted to have that disclaimer, okay? Separation of church and state, two different worlds. You will never hear me talk about work. You'll never hear me talk about patients. You'll never hear me talk about anything that goes on there. This is a complete different project that is just mine and mine alone. So the next question is, why did I start this YouTube channel? Well, if I'm being honest, I have had starting a YouTube channel on my vision board for at least 2 decades now. I have wanted to do a YouTube channel for the longest because I feel like it would give me an opportunity to be really creative and do something for myself. And it just never really came to fruition. I think one of the reasons why is just I couldn't figure out what to do. When I first started watching YouTube, like skits and comedy and that sort of thing was like really in. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I could do something like that because, you know, I was a drama kid and I enjoy being goofy and all of those type of things. And then when I was in nursing school, I watched a lot of like education tutorials. And at the time I was tutoring a lot. So I was like, well, maybe I could do that. And so with time, I just never knew what to create a channel on, but I always wanted to do one. And then recently I realized that organically what I'm watching on YouTube has completely changed, right? Like right now, the majority of what I watch is booktube and lifestyle. That's all I watch on YouTube now. And I watch YouTube more than I watch like other like streaming services. And so it kind of just hit me like, you know, why don't you just do what you're kind of watching? Like, this is what you like to watch. Why don't you kind of just do that? And I ran this by one of my best friends and she was like, yeah, why aren't you already doing this? And so it just kind of like organically happened. Like I talk about books all the time. I wish I had more people to talk about the books that I like. And so I figured, you know what, why not? Why not? Why not? Why don't I just start this as a project? Now, I have what you can imagine to be a pretty important and stressful job. So I wanted to do a YouTube channel forever. And I kept putting it on the back burner because, well, I had my career to advance, right? I went through schooling. I did my ASN, then my BSN, then my master's, and then my doctorate, and I was busy going through a fellowship, and then I started working, and then I got promoted, and things just kept happening in my professional job, and all of my passion projects, all of the things that I wanted to do, including writing, including this YouTube channel, including reading, it all got kind of pushed to the back burner. And in the last couple of years, I've kind of felt that heaviness of not really having something to call my own, right? Everything that I have done up until this point has been for school or it has been for work. It hasn't really been for me. And so I had a really serious talk with myself about going back to basics, going back to the things that I love and spending more time doing that. And so for the past year, I worked really, really hard to create more of a balance between my personal life and my work life. I have a heavy job, right? I deal with very sick patients. We deal with death and dying on a daily. It is a really tough job to have. And if you don't take care of yourself and take the time to do stuff for yourself, you can easily burn out. So I made a conscious effort over the past year to really set boundaries for myself more than anything in order to prevent myself from burning out. And so now that everything with work is more stable, I want to start doing more for myself, right? All of the passion projects that I put to the back burner because I was being a busy bee, getting to where I needed to be in my professional day job. Now we're all stable. It's great. I can keep the lights on. That's wonderful. Now what do I do for myself? So this YouTube channel is part of that, right? It's part of me doing a passion project for myself. Also me going back to like trying to write a novel. This is a passion project for myself. I have zero expectations of what this is going to be. If it does great, wonderful. If it doesn't, that's fine, right? The lights are still going to be on. I'm still going to be working towards these passion little projects that I want to do for myself. I'm still trying. That's all that matters. And that's really why I wanted to start this channel for myself, for me. I wanted to start it for me. What is a fun and unique thing that I bring to YouTube? I think that there's a certain level of honesty that I bring to the table. You know, I'm very honest. I do try to look at things from multiple point of views. I like to read all genres, which I think is great. I just think that I'm overall honest and pretty cool person. I also think I'm kind of hilarious, and that's just me. I have been told that I could be funny. Okay, am I funny all the time? No, but can I be funny? Sure. So I think my honesty, my humor, my sarcasm, my wit, my unique brand of Anastasia, you know, that's what I could bring. So the next question is, what are you most excited for this channel? I think I kind of hit on it already. I am just excited to do something for myself. I'm excited to like see where this goes. I'm excited to build a community, or the opportunity to build a community. I'm excited to try new things. I'm excited that I'm learning a new skill, right? Because I'm learning I am learning equipment. I'm learning editing software. I am learning how to deal with social media. I am learning so many things through this project that I feel that it's giving me a lot of skills that are relevant in this day and age that I didn't have previously, because in healthcare you have a whole another set of skills that are very, I've spent a lot of time learning those, but this is like a whole new world. So I'm really excited about that. And I'm also really excited to get back on my writing journey and just like see where that takes me, right? Like I'm a baby starting from scratch, and it just feels overall like an exciting new thing to do, right? I'm learning things every single day. And the fact that I don't have the pressure of this having to take off, the pressure of this having to work, the pressure of this having to make money, it means that I can take my time and enjoy it. And that is what I'm excited about. I'm excited about like seeing how I can grow through this process. The next question is, what do you think will be the hardest challenge? And that is easy. I am horrible with social media. I have, for the past 3 decades, basically run away from all things regarding social media. And that is like, when MySpace was a thing, I had it very briefly and I ran away from it. I had a Facebook for a very small amount of time and then I got rid of it. I never had a Vine or a Snapchat. I don't have a TikTok. I have an Instagram, which I'm just starting to learn how to use. And I hardly post because I don't know how to use things very well. So that is going to be my hardest part. The hardest part is me learning social media. YouTube is what I feel the most comfortable with. And even with that, I still have to learn all of the things on the back end. I'm just learning how to edit. I am just learning what programs to use. I am a baby in this space, just learning all of this. So the biggest challenge is basically learning how to navigate all of this stuff. This kind of goes back to me saying how like I'm excited to like learn a new skill. For decades, social media has kind of given me the ick when it comes to like communication. And I don't necessarily have a thing against social media per se. I just know that social media can be very toxic. So I know that's kind of weird to hear that, like a millennial doesn't really do social media, but it's never really been a priority for me. Like I've always been someone who prefers human interaction, right? If you want to talk to me, call me. You want to see me, visit. I'm one of those people rather than let me talk to you on social media. So it's never been my thing. It's just something that hasn't been natural to me. So that will be my biggest challenge, just basically learning how to use social media and these platforms just to be kind of creative. I still believe in boundaries. I still believe in keeping a lot of things private. So there are certain things I will not share on social media or on the internet. But, I'm excited to learn how to do this. So the next question is, why do you love reading? And honestly, where else can you, from the comfort of your own home, live 1,000 lives? Where can you, right? Like, I love the fact that you're able to engage in different worlds and different viewpoints and learn about other people through other lenses while still being safe at home under your covers, just chilling. Like books really are magic. There's a reason why throughout history, when regimes are trying to take over and change the thought process of a nation, why they start with the burning of the books, why they start banning and burning books. Okay, there's a reason for that. And that is that books really are magic. They open up doors and windows for you to be able to experience and learn from other people. It's an education on human nature. I think for the most part, it's impossible to be well-read and still be hateful, right? Reading teaches you empathy. You are automatically reading viewpoints of different characters through different points of their lives, through different situations. It teaches you how to learn about the human condition, understand the human condition, and just be a better person. So reading is amazing, people. Keep reading, read banned books. They're banned for a reason. Open your horizons, learn new things. That is what reading is all about. Also, it's just freaking entertaining, right? I love getting lost in a book. I am all about the disassociation, people. I say it all the time. I love it. Let me get lost. Sometimes the real world is for the birds and I need something else to take me out. The next question is, when did I start reading? I started reading very young. I was in grade school. I remember when I was put into gifted classes in the second grade, you would start and end your day with reading. And that's what we did. So it's a fundamental thing in the back of your head that reading is the way to go. And I remember distinctively asking my aunt to buy me certain Goosebumps or Archie comics or whatever I could find in the library. I consumed. I had books all the time, and I looked forward to those book fairs every year. And yeah, it's just always been a part of my life, my fiber of my being, really. So reading has just always been there. I don't remember. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I don't remember a time where I wasn't reading, so like it's just always been there, just as a part of the fabric of my being. So the next question is, where do I read? And the truth of the matter is pretty much everywhere. I consume books in the 3 major formats, and that is, a physical book, a audiobook, or my Kindle. I have a very long commute to and from work. Sometimes it's over 2 hours each way. So I consume a lot of audiobooks that way. I also like to audiobook tandem with the physical book and or do audiobooks when I'm doing chores around the house. So I do consume a lot of audiobooks in that fashion. I will do a physical book if I'm home, either reading in bed or in my living room. Sometimes I'll go by the little lake that's by our townhouse, condominium situation here, and I'll read on one of those benches. And then my Kindle is just basically the easiest way to consume a book and take it to go with me. So I have a conference coming up this weekend. I'm going to be taking my Kindle with me because it's better than just taking a bunch of books. I have my Kindle with me all the time, actually. So I will read if I'm in a line at Starbucks. I will read if I'm at a restaurant. I will read if I have to, wait for something at a doctor's appointment or something. So I have my Kindle with me at all times. I also can read my Kindle on my phone if I forget my physical Kindle at home, but basically anywhere, everywhere. You can read anywhere, people. The next question is, what genres do I read? And I think I've kind of mentioned it before, but pretty much everything. I love pretty much all genres. I'm a mood reader, so it really just depends on what I'm in the mood to read at that time. What are your favorite books? Now, I will say I don't have a favorite book. There's not a book that I can say that it's my absolute favorite book. I do have favorite books. I have a lot of books that I love. I went ahead and took down a few books that if I were to see them, I can say, oh my God, that is so good. So I kind of just put them down here into like 2 piles, and that is like classic loves and like more recent loves. But I can go through them just really, really quickly so you can kind of get a taste of the books that I absolutely adore. I will start with the classic pile first. For the longest time, if you asked me like what is one of your absolute favorite books, I would have told you The Kite Runner by Khaled Hosseini was one of my very first, I love this book. I read it when I was in my mid-20s and I sobbed the entire time. And for me, if a book makes me, I'm not a very emotional person. It's just, I have emotions, but they're kind of like tucked behind a couple of other things so I can get shit done. But when a book makes me cry, it's kind of got my seal of approval. I cannot not love that book if it makes me cry. And this book I read in my mid-20s and I sobbed. And for a book to do that, it had to be phenomenal. Also, I will say that when I read this book, I was going through a pretty tough time in my life. And I felt very seen in the characters in this book, which is phenomenal considering that the characters and I have seemingly nothing in common. And yet I ate this up at the time. It came at a great time. I have 2 copies of this. I have a paperback and then I have this special edition, 20th anniversary edition, because I loved this book so much. Another book that I absolutely adore and to me is like the pinnacle of what a romance should be, although I'm recognizing it's more of a sci-fi than a romance, but I guess I can call it a sci-fi romance, and that's The Time Traveler's Wife by Audrey Niffenegger. I'm gonna say that wrong. But I loved this book at the time that I read it. It just kind of hit all of the feels. And there's just something to be said about a man loving a woman so much that he is there the entirety of her lifeline, because he's a time traveler, obviously, jumping through different timelines in order to just be a part of her life in every stage of her life, and just trying to get back to her. It was such a beautiful, beautiful book. Another book that I absolutely adore is The Book Thief by Marcus Zuzak. I love this book. It is told from the point of view of death, and it's in the middle of Nazi Germany. There's a young girl who, her act of rebellion is that she takes books. It is a beautiful, beautiful book, and I loved this book. Sobbed as well. Another book that I absolutely adore is The Lovely Bones by Alice Sebold. This follows a young girl as she's trying to uncover the details of her own murder. And I loved this when I read it. It's also been turned into a movie. Early in my reading journey, I also fell in love with Anne Rice. She was my first, I would say, my favorite author at the time, and I read a lot of her works. I loved the gothic elements in her storytelling. I just adored her. And one of my favorite books is Queen of the Damned by Anne Rice. I have a huge collection of hers. I fell in love with a lot of her earlier works, the Queen of the Damned being my favorite from the Interview with Vampire series. This is where you meet Akasha and her background, her story, and that sort of thing. So I loved this book. A couple of classics that I adore are The Picture of Dorian Gray and Dracula, both gothic horror, good gothic novels. That's all I can say. And then we have a couple of classic fantasies that I adore. The first being The Lord of the Rings by Tolkien. Absolutely ate this up before I saw the movies. Yes, I'm one of those people. I read it before I saw the movies, and I adored it. I am a huge, huge, huge fan of The Lord of the Rings. I've got a bunch of little trinkets and things all over the house. Another series that I absolutely adore is A Song of Ice and Fire by George R.R. Martin. Of course, I'm talking about the Game of Thrones series. Again, I was one of those people that read the entire series before I watched the series, and I'm a huge, huge fan. I am still waiting for the next books to come out, but Homeboy has decided this is not a priority. But huge, huge fan. And then, of course, some classic fantasy that I absolutely adore. I cannot not mention them. Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones. Love this little whimsical book. I adore the movie. I love Studio Ghibli, and Howl's Moving Castle is my favorite Studio Ghibli movie. I have the movie, I have the books, I have the soundtrack on vinyl because I love orchestra music, strings, and that sort of thing. I adore Howl's Moving Castle. Another huge favorite of mine, obviously, The Hunger Games. Love this by Suzanne Collins. I actually reread the entire series this year because I was reading Sunrise on the Reaping, and I felt, you know what? Let me just read the entirety of the series, all 5 books, in the order of the Hunger Games, not the order that the books came out, the order of the Hunger Games. And I don't regret a thing. It was a wonderful time. A little stroll down memory lane. Loved it. Love this book. And then the last 2 from that little pile, I will disclaimer. Listen, I know they're in timeout. They're being bad. I am not condoning them at all. Okay? They're both in timeout. They're both in timeout on my shelves. I put them off to the side so you can't even really see them. But does it take away the feelings that I had when I read these books or consumed the movies or whatever the case may be? No. So yes, I'm aware that both of them are in timeout. We're not promoting the authors, okay? Don't come at me. I'm not promoting the authors. What I am doing is telling you that these books shaped a part of me. they've made it into the marrow of my being, and so I cannot ignore the works, okay? Also, I'd like to point out that a huge chunk of the reason why I love these books are because of the movies that they're associated with. And I can't sit here and like fault the creators of these movies for the actions of these authors. Does that make sense? Like, we should not be punishing the actors who made these books what they are because the author is acting crazy and lost their damn mind. And of course, I am talking about Neil Gaiman and J.K. Rowling. I adore Coraline. I adore the Harry Potter series. Obviously, I have a tattoo. My whole house has Harry Potter all over the house. I am a huge, huge fan of these two books. In fact, I'm a huge fan of the works, the entire Harry Potter series, and I'm a huge fan of a lot of the books that Neil Gaiman has written. Am I profoundly disappointed in the two of them? Yes. Am I very upset about everything? Absolutely. But am I going to sit here and pretend like these works don't hold a special place in my heart? No. So I just wanted to put that out there, okay? Because again, we can go through an entire discussion about separating the artist from the art, and you're going to find it's going to be extremely, extremely, extremely difficult, right? Harvey Weinstein is an absolute creep and an idiot and should be punished for all time. But are we going to sit there and rip apart every actor that was associated with every movie that was associated? That's not fair to those people who put in so much work. And to be honest with you, the Harry Potter series holds a special part in my heart because of those movies. And I'm not going to sit here and blame Madam Maggie Smith and Rupert Grint and Emma Watson for J.K. Rowling's bullshit. So it is what it is. Yes, they're in timeout. So that kind of rounds out classic books that I've loved throughout the decades. But I'm going to go through a very short list of favorite books that I have found more recently that may resonate with more people because they've been popular more recently. Okay, the first one is Circe by Madeline Miller. I personally loved this book a lot more than A Song of Achilles. I do like The Song of Achilles, but this to me was better. The female rage, the feeling of what it's like to be a woman in a male-dominated society, and the crap you have to deal with even if you're a goddess. And this was amazing. So this is definitely one of my favorites. My favorite recent romance, I never thought I'd ever hear those words, but when I read Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez, I adored this. I was like, oh wow, we've got two smart characters who are in their 30s, who've had lives. What a concept. And I loved this book. It was like such a breath of fresh air. Another recent favorite of mine is the Mindfuck series by St. Abbey. I loved this. I had no expectations walking into this. It's a dark romance. There's 5 books in one. I went into this completely blind, not knowing what I was walking into, and I loved this. What I loved about this book is that it was just so fast paced. I was so invested into the story. I was so invested into the characters. Loved this. And it was indie published, so amazing. Another recent find of mine that I absolutely loved was The Children of Blood and Bone. I believe this is turning into a movie soon. I've read all 3 books in the series. This is a beautiful story that is heavily inspired by Orisha folklore. I ate this up. This was a beautiful, beautiful story. It takes a bit of a turn in the 3rd book, but it's so good, and they are turning it into a movie, so I'm really excited to see what they do with this. Another recent favorite of mine is Hail Mary by Andy Weir. I know everybody's been talking about this. I did not think I was gonna like this, and this ended up being probably one of my favorite books of the year. Listen to it on audiobook. It is so witty, it is so funny, it is so good. And you would think that a guy floating through space by himself wouldn't be that entertaining, but It was, and I loved it. And so I know this is also being turned into a movie, so I'm gonna be right there waiting to see Ryan Gosling try to figure out this. And then the last three are like no surprise to anybody. The Sword of Kaigen, I talked about this in another video. This took my heart, broke it, and then put it back together, and I adore this freaking book. The Red Rising series by Pierce Brown. This is an amazing series. I'm on book 5 right now, and I gotta tell you, the hype is real. The hype is real. This is just an amazing, amazing series. It's gonna go down in history as one of my favorite series of all time. And, you know, if you haven't already, get on it. And the last book I'm gonna mention as part of like my recent favorites is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. Besides her last one, Calabasas, I've read everything else that this woman has come out with. I absolutely love her writing. She is amazing. And I get it, not everybody likes R.F. Kuang's writing. Some people call it pretentious. I absolutely adore it. Babel was wonderful. Yellowface was smart. This was devastating. You could think of the magic system in this series as like Avatar: The Last Airbender if it was rated R. And it is so good. So I love this series as well. So there you have it, just a quick list of some of my favorite books. I do want to say that that list is probably not all comprehensive. I literally just turned around, grabbed books off the shelves, and put them on the table so I could talk to you about them. But I'm pretty sure I'm missing a lot of books. One of these days, I'll go through my Goodreads, I'll pull all of my 5 stars, and we'll have a more in-depth talk. But for right now, that's just kind of like a glimpse of the type of books that I absolutely love. So the next question is, what does my book collection look like? Okay, so here is what my book collection mainly looks like. This is the view from my stairs. I'm trying to give you the entire kind of vantage point. I have what are 4 huge Billy bookcases, and I have extenders on the top for each one of them. I have so many books that I actually have a bunch of books on the top there. And then I have 2 smaller bookshelves on the side here for some subgenres. And I do have a TBR cart upstairs. But this is pretty much it for the most part. From this angle, you can probably see the room a little bit better. I do have a huge pop collection that we can go through another time. But here I have my nonfiction romance. This entirety is all literary fiction. This is all fantasy. This has a lot of sci-fi. I have a couple classics there, some nonfiction on the bottom because I just ran out of room. Up there, I have graphic novels and my Neil Gaiman collection, which is still in the fantasy. He's in timeout, as is J.K. Rowling, so she's up there as well with her Harry Potter series. This is thrillers. This is horror. And then I've got manga, I got classics, I've got middle grade, and then I have young adult with a couple of cookbooks at the end. But this is pretty much the majority of my collection. I keep it in my dining room because my office is upstairs, and I used to have my library in my office. And when I started doing a lot of working from home, my office became a place of just work, and there was no enjoyment there. And so I made the conscious decision to separate my library from my office, so that way when I came downstairs, the very first thing I saw was the library. When I come in through the front door, the very first thing I see is my library, and it is associated with happiness. And that is how a library should be. And in my office, I work. And it's great that I have like an extra space where I can separate the two. So this is basically what my collection looks like. Probably do as one of my next videos is actually do a bookshelf tour, and I'll talk about the books and how long I've had them and all of that jazz. I will say that this is a very large collection, but I have been collecting these books for close to 3 decades. So that's almost 30 years of me collecting these books. I did not get them overnight. I did not buy them yesterday. I did not, I don't have a I don't have a spending problem. These have been this has been a labor of love through many, many, many years of me collecting and keeping these books. Some of these books you'll see are thrifted and I keep them because they have sentimental value. A few of these books are falling apart. I mean, like, they're brittle and breaking in my hands, but I keep them for sentimental value. And yeah, so this is my collection. It's a very big collection, but it's something that gives me joy. Okay, this gives me joy. There's no shame here. You can't shame me. Also, I will point out that I have two very distinct hobbies, and I know this, and I am not ashamed in any way, shape, or form. Those two hobbies are I read books. I absolutely read books, but I also buy books. I buy books, and I am much better at buying the books than reading the books, and I'm okay with that. So my physical TBR of books that I need to read on the shelves, it's very high, and I don't care. I don't care. I do know there are just so many books and so little time in this life to read them, and just having them with me makes me happy. And so that is what we're going to continue to do. Okay? And I'm not going to be shamed for it. Just saying. Just saying. And now we're finally at the last question of the day. I feel like this is taking forever. And that is, who are the top 3 booktubers you recommend? And I will say, number 1, Jack Edwards. Absolutely adore him. I love all of his recommendations. I have a lot of books on my literary fiction shelf because of him. I feel like his title of YouTube's resident librarian is very fitting. Love him, love everything that he does. The next one is a bit of a surprise because she's primarily a romance reader. I don't do romance that much, but I adore her personality. And I feel like if we were in the same city, we would be friends. And that is Larissa from Larry Reads. I love her. I just love her, right? Like sometimes I will just have her in the background as I'm doing stuff around the house, just because I just love her personality. Now, I will say there have been a few books that I've tried because of her. I think I tried the Mindfuck series because she kept mentioning it. And I've read a couple of other books that she's like talked about, but for the most part, obviously, I'm not a romance reader, so you would think this doesn't make any sense, but it does. And then the third one, I will say, it's a bit of a toss-up between a few people. But if I look at the YouTuber who I have, I think, more in common with, I would say Sid the Bookworm. I love her content. She's an ICU nurse. I'm a nurse practitioner, so we have, that in common. She has wonderful book recs. I have a lot of books on these shelves because I'm like, hey, that sounds like something I would like. I think I picked up Dungeon Crawler Carl because of her, and I am hoping that I love it just as much as she does because she talks a lot about that book. But I think, she likes a lot of the genres I like. We have the healthcare background in common. And I think she's also doing her writing journey, and I'm also on that journey. So I think there's a lot of similarities. So I absolutely adore her content. And she's also just like this bubbly, like adorable person. So again, love. So I would say that those are my top 3 booktubers at the moment, but there are plenty other people that I watch and I love. So that is basically it for this BookTube newbie tag. Thank you so much for sticking around this long. If you have, I appreciate it. This was a lot of yapping. This was my first experience speed dating, and so I really hope this was as informative for you as it was for me, because this is probably the only time I would ever do something like So that is it for today. Thank you for spending some time with me and allowing us to get to know each other, to see whether or not we are compatible, to see whether or not we are in simpatico with each other, and whether or not you want to stick around. So thank you so much. Hope you're having a wonderful day, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye. My best friend really wants me to do speed dating, and I'm like, No. No. Humans. No.